Part 2. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 11. Fu Kang responded. Go and take a bath. Chu Qing Huang said, go to the bath in this palace. There is hot water there. No cold water baths are allowed in the future. Fu Kang's expression changed slightly. He was about to say that this was against the rules, but he heard Chu Qing Huang say, this is an order. So he swallowed the words before he spoke, and Fu Kang whispered, yes. Chu Qing Huang ignored him and went back to the table to eat. Although she doesn't want to reveal too many differences with the original owner, she really doesn't have the habit of abusing someone, especially the closest and trustworthy person around her. After the meal, Chu Qing Huang moved to sit on the low couch in front of the window, holding a cup of tea in his hand and looking out the window silently. Fu Kang took a bath very quickly and returned to the bedroom within a moment of burning incense. Chu Qing Huang just finished drinking the tea in his hand and looked up at him, go and lie down on the bed. When Fu Kang heard this, his body trembled. He faced too many surprises today, and he was really unable to cope with them. Don't worry, I have no interest in you, nor do I want to torture you, Chu Qing Huang said calmly, your injuries need medicine. Fu Kang was about to kneel down, I can. What did I just say? Chu Qing Huang frowned. First, stop kneeling frequently, second, obey unconditionally. Fu Kang's body stiffened slightly, he lowered his head and said yes, and walked slowly and hesitantly towards the princess's noble bed. All the maids in the palace were kicked out. There was no one else at this time. Chu Qing Huang got up and went to apply medicine to her shadow. Too many firsts happened today. The top master of the Dark Pavilion, who was merciless when killing people, was obviously at a loss. His body was as stiff as a stone and he lay on the bed. On the other hand, Chu Qing Huang, who was serving someone for the first time, was able to serve him with ease. With medicine on his body, his expression, apart from his natural indifference, looked much more calm than him. The whole body was covered with crystal clear and fragrant ointment. Chu Qing Huang said while applying it, what happened in the past has passed. I will not abuse you for no reason in the future. You should take good care of your body and don't let it go easily again injured, do you hear me? Yes. I will set some rules for you, Chu Qing Huang said. First, you can follow me openly during the day, and you don't have to hide unless you have a special mission. Second, you don't have to stay on the beam at night, you can sleep on the brocade couch in this dormitory. Thirdly, from now on, you can eat 3 meals a day with me, and you can drink the soup and medicine I ordered you to cook on time, but other than that, anyone else can use my name too. You'd better learn to refuse if you drink poison, or wine. Fu Kang lay on the bed without saying a word, quietly listening to Chu Qing Huang's orders. When she finished speaking, she seemed to open her mouth to say something, but couldn't say a word. You want to say that this is against the rules? Chu Qing Huang obviously knew what he was thinking, and said in a calm tone, remember, anything that is against the rules will be subject to the orders of this palace. You have no room for bargaining. Yes. Your Highness, the maid's voice sounded outside, the medicine is ready. Chu Qing Huang stood up and walked out. Taking the soup from Minjiao, Chu Qing Huang ordered, starting from tomorrow, I will add an extra bowl of rice porridge to my 3 meals a day. Although Minjiao was puzzled, she respectfully responded, yes. Chu Qing Huang closed the door, lowered her head and smelled the soup, turned around and put the medicine on the table, and the fourth point is that you have a big health problem. You are not allowed to eat raw or cold food or take cold showers in the future. Take the medicine on time and I will help you take care of your body. Fu Kang was startled, lying stiffly on the bed unable to react. It's not an illusion. The princess today is different from the past. Everything that happened today was very different from what he knew. Get up and drink the medicine. Chu Qing Huang knew what he was thinking, but ignored him. Go and rest after drinking the medicine. You don't have to watch tonight. After leaving these words, Chu Ching Huang ignored him and went to wash and undress alone. He walked to the mirror and took off the simple red hairpin earrings on his head. His black hair fell down, and his whole body instantly became a little more mature. It means leisure and laziness. She sat in front of the rhombus mirror and quietly looked at the cool, beautiful, and bright girl's face in the mirror. The more she looked at it, the more she couldn't figure it out. How did the original owner completely use up his unique talent? Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbs feed -01, container, tabula below article thumbnail -300x250, placement, below article thumbnail -300x250, target. Type, mix. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 12. Feng Jinzi developed a fever that night. Chu Yuling did not dare to stay in the princess protector's mansion for a long time. After the imperial doctor came into the mansion to treat Feng Jinzi's injuries and ensured that there was nothing wrong with her, she left in the evening. Before leaving, he left his confidant maid Qing Xia to take care of Feng Jinzi. However, injured people are prone to fever. Feng Jinzi kept mumbling at night, so King Xia hurriedly sent for a doctor. After checking his pulse and diagnosing it, the doctor did not know what method he used to cool down Feng Jinzi, and then started the medicine was boiled and the medicine was kept busy for more than an hour before a bowl of medicine was given to him. Feng Jinzi, who was weak from the fever, began to sweat soon after taking the medicine, and shouted "Your Highness" in a daze. Even his voice seemed much helpless due to his illness, which made the listener feel sad. The boy beside him ran to the Dongshang pavilion at the risk of offending the princess, knelt in front of the palace and begged, "Your Highness, please take a look at the young master. The young master is very ill, and he is really lonely and helpless now," he kept calling "Your Highness, Your Highness, please." Chu Ching Huang had already laid down on the bed and didn't want to pay attention to it at first. However, the boy's words he kept calling His Highness amused her, and Chu Ching Huang decided to get up and take a look. Thinking of my current unfamiliar situation, I will inevitably have to deal with the Feng family in the future, as well as the Queen Mother and Feng Gaifei in the palace, as well as the few servants in the princess mansion. Yes, there is also the one who has not appeared today. 3 7-foot men with outstanding looks. Chu Ching Huang couldn't help but sigh again at the deviant courage of the original owner. Apart from sighing, I was actually somewhat impressed. Under the imperial power system where men were superior to women, Chu Ching Huang ignored the world and was not afraid of life and death. He only wanted to be happy for himself and was not afraid to break the world. This courage was enough to make most men in the world unable to match it. Putting aside his overly cruel temperament, Chu Ching Huang was actually a darling favored by God, but all his talents and advantages were destroyed by his uncontrollable cruelty. "Your Highness the Princess. Please go and see the young master." "Your Highness the Princess." Chu Ching Huang got up from the bed, put on a cloud-colored robe and walked out of the inner hall. He happened to see Fukang, who was resting on the brocade couch, standing up with his eyes lowered. She paused slightly and her eyes fell on him. Dressed in black, Fukang's figure became thinner and more serious. His handsome and delicate face was so beautiful under the light that he didn't look like he had just woken up from sleep. It is the shadow person's habit to sleep with his clothes on. In order to be able to deal with emergencies at any time, Chu Ching Huang has no idea about this. Chu Ching Huang said, "Come with me and have a look." Fukang said, "Yes." Chu Ching Huang walked out of the dormitory and looked at the servant kneeling outside. "Is Feng Jinzi seriously ill?" When the young man saw her coming out, he kowtowed quickly, "Your Highness, I really didn't mean to disturb you, but the young master." "I'm going to take a look," Chu Ching Huang said calmly, "lead the way." Yes, the boy was pleasantly surprised that he had saved his life. He also begged the princess to be soft-hearted and quickly got up and walked back. There were two maids holding lamps leading the way, and Chu Qinghuang walked calmly and steadily on the corridor. Because Feng Jinzi had been favored before, he moved into the best Wutong garden in Zishang Pavilion since he entered the princess mansion. As a consort, he lived in a separate house with the princess, and Chu Qinghuang relied on him in everything. There are 8 personal guards he brought with him in the yard, including a boy and a book boy. As soon as Chu Qinghuangfu stepped into the courtyard, everyone knelt down to greet her. Everyone knew that this princess had a violent and ruthless temper, and no one dared to challenge her majesty at the cost of their lives. Stepping through the threshold, the smell of medicine hits your nostrils. Chu Qinghuang walked into the inner room. Feng Jinzi, who was lying on the bed, had already woken up. His face was pale and colorless. He looked at Chu Qinghuang standing in front of the bed, his eyes darkened and he was speechless for a long time. What kind of look is this? Chu Qinghuang raised his eyebrows slightly. Hate me? Feng Jinzi's eyes had a deep look of inquiry. Hearing this, he said coldly, I don't dare. It's okay if you dare, Chu Qinghuang said in a calm tone, since you disdain me so much, I have decided not to force you. I will take good care of my injuries in the past few days. When the injury gets better, I will go back to your prime minister's mansion. I will give you a letter of divorce, and from now on, the marriage between man and woman will have nothing to do with each other. Feng Jinzi's expression changed. A divorce letter? Isn't this what you have always wanted? Chu Qinghuang mocked. I grant you this favor, you should kneel down and thank me for my grace. Feng Jinzi's eyes changed completely, and she clutched the mattress with both hands. Chu Qing, if you don't want to add to the hurt, you'd better learn to shut up. Feng Jin choked, and his pale face became stiffer and uglier. Chu Qinghuang didn't want to stay any longer, so she turned around and walked out of the inner room, telling the servant, take good care of your young master. After leaving these words, she walked away. The boy looked at her blankly. Won't the princess stay a little longer? Chu Qinghuang was not interested in staying for a while. It was true that Feng Jinzi was affected by the cold, and it was true that he hated Chu Qinghuang, but at the moment he was absolutely unwilling to break up with Chu Qinghuang. In the past, Chu Qinghuang gave in to him everywhere, and he was confident. After this stumble, he will definitely understand that the previous tricks no longer work, and will most likely find a way to show weakness. Chu Qinghuang was originally from a royal family. Even though she knew better than anyone how noble these young masters were in front of outsiders, she also knew that for that supreme position, these people were willing to pay more than ordinary people imagined. Many. All the humiliation Feng Jinzi suffered today will be compensated tenfold and 100-fold when Chu Tianyan ascends the throne. The Feng family will be honored and favored by no one. But from now on, all these will become their fantasies. As the most popular princess in Ziki, Chu Qinghuang is well known, and her every move will attract too many people's attention. The news that Feng Jinzi was beaten with a stick spread like wildfire the next day. In addition to the Empress Dowager and the Emperor in the palace who had already known about it, the princes of the major palaces were also surprised without exception. Seventh sister ordered Feng Jinzi to be severely beaten. Ling Wang, the eldest in the royal family, was stunned. How is this possible? Doesn't seventh sister like Feng Jinzi the most? Furthermore, Feng Jinzi is the nephew of concubine Feng, with a noble status, and is a well-known nobleman from a famous family. Can Feng Jinzi bear such a severe punishment and humiliation by seventh sister? That's what the news says. It shouldn't be false, the guard replied respectfully. Your Highness, do you want to go and see? Chu Tianling was silent for a moment, his eyes deepened. No, wait and see what the emperor's reaction is. In addition to the emperor, the Feng family should not be indifferent. Feng Jinzi is the legitimate son of the Feng family, and is very favored by the imperial concubine. With his status, he was originally a match for the princess's husband, but Chu Qinghuang has a violent temper and is unpredictable. Everyone is afraid of her, and her reputation is not good. If it weren't for the powerful bargaining chip for the third prince to fight for the throne, the Feng family would never agree to let Feng Jinzi and Chu Qinghuang get married. However, compared to whether Feng Jinzi can bear such a heavy punishment, Chu Tianling wants to know what happened in the princess's mansion. Chu Qinghuang must have a reason to be angry with Feng Jinzi, right? This idea is exactly the same in other royal palaces. The second Prince Chu Tianqiu and the fifth Prince Chu Tianzheng were also surprised when they heard the news, and they also chose to wait and see. Only the third Prince Chu Tianyan changed color when he heard it. Jinzi was punished. Yes. Why? The details are still unknown. Chu Tianyan frowned. He now needed Feng Jinzi to win favor in the princess's mansion and get Chu Qinghuang's help for him. Apart from anything else, Chu Qinghuang's unparalleled martial arts and her temperament of not taking anyone seriously could give him the help he needed one day in the future. Besides, his father was counting on Chu Qinghuang to lead the army in the future and would definitely give her military power. She also had a top-level Dark Pavilion warrior by her side, who was so powerful that no one could match her. Chu Tianyan had no military generals to use. Chu Qinghuang was a woman and could not compete for the throne. He did not worry that she would have her own army in the future if he held military power. Now he wanted to win over Chu Qinghuang, so he could only let Feng Jinzi down. After he accomplishes his great cause, he will double the compensation for the grievances Jinji suffered today, and will also train military generals who are loyal to him. Then Chu Qinghuang, the princess who protects the country, can disappear forever, so that Jinji will not be reminded of the humiliation he suffered when he sees her. He thought Jinji could always be favored in the princess's mansion, but he never expected that Chu Qinghuang's violent temper would be exerted on Jinji. The confidant asked respectfully, "What is your highness going to do?" Chu Tianyan did not speak. What to do? What can he do now? Go to the princess's mansion to find Chu Qinghuang to ask for punishment? Not to mention that Chu Qinghuang's temper will not pay any attention to him. Even if she is willing to give this face, he can't go at this time. If he goes rashly without knowing why Jinji was punished, what if he makes things worse? Prepare the car, I will go to the Feng family. Yes. The prince's mansions have their own thoughts. After the court was dismissed, news came from the palace that the emperor summoned the seventh princess. Your Highness Suhai, the chief steward beside the emperor, bowed respectfully. The emperor asked you to come to the palace to discuss important matters. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 13. Chu Qinghuang arranged her robes and took Fukang into the palace. The emperor's royal palace was very lively. In addition to the queen mother, the empress, concubine Feng, and concubine Duan, there are also the prime minister Feng, the minister of Hubu, the minister of Libu, Wang Yushi, Ding Yushi, as well as the eldest prince, the second prince, the third prince, and the fifth prince. Sixth princess. There were a lot of people and the atmosphere was very depressing. It felt like a storm was coming and the building was full of storms. As Suhai sang loudly, "The seventh princess is here." The hall instantly became quiet. Chu Qinghuang looked around slowly and walked in expressionlessly. Everyone's eyes fell on her. Those eyes contained anger or indifference, fear or confusion. Of course, some of them were watching the show calmly. Prime Minister Feng's face was very ugly. Seeing Chu Qinghuang appear, he said in a deep voice, "I wonder what Jinji did that made Her Royal Highness so angry that she did not hesitate to lynch him." Ding Yushi frowned. Although Her Royal Highness the Princess has a title, she cannot be punished as a doctor. The prince consort is the son of the prime minister, and he and her royal highness are husband and wife. Is it a bit too much for your highness to use severe punishment on him? Chu Tianyan frowned and said in the tone of a righteous man, how can the seventh sister lynch the consort? If the princesses follow suit in the future, the status of the consort will plummet. Where does this put the laws of Ziki? At the expense of the dignity of the royal family. Where? Everyone began to angrily accuse each other. The Queen Mother looked coldly. Xiao Qi went to the Thai hospital last night to get some medicinal materials. I wonder who the medicine was for. She originally thought that Chu Qinghuang was bringing medicine to Feng Jinzi, but after asking today, she found out that after returning home last night, Chu Qinghuang did not step into Wutong Garden where Jinzi lived. Even in the middle of the night, Jinzi had a fever, and the servant asked for it. In front of her, Chu Qinghuang reluctantly went to Wutong Garden for a while. Jinzi is a weak scholar and has never been punished by a staff. What's more, the princess herself asked the emperor to make the decision on this marriage, but now. Feng Gaifei looked sad. I still ask the emperor to make the decision, don't let the courtiers feel cold. Chu Qinghuang looked indifferent, and after entering, he silently looked at the middle-aged man sitting behind the imperial desk, the father of the original owner Chu Qinghuang, the current king of Ziki, a man who once loved this daughter like the apple of his eye. At this time, he was just a majestic and slightly anxious emperor. His anxiety was etched between his brows and eyes, and although he tried his best to hide it, it was nowhere to be seen in King Huang's eyes. And this kind of anxiety can never be because of Feng Jin. When Feng Cheng saw Chu Qinghuang's cold and arrogant attitude, he became even more dissatisfied. Your Highness Princess. What are you shouting for? Chu Qinghuang turned to look at him with cold eyes. Feng Jinzi was rude to me and insulted and cursed me at every turn. I was extremely merciful by not killing him. Does the Prime Minister have any objections to my behavior? Feng Cheng met her cold eyes and shuddered unexpectedly. Then his face changed slightly. Jinzi insulted the princess? This is impossible. Jinzi has always been a man who knows etiquette and observes etiquette. It was also the princess who wanted to marry him. That's why. The Prime Minister seems to be very dissatisfied with me. Chu Qinghuang frowned slightly, and his tone was extremely cold. Feng Jinzi married me, did you wrong him? Prime Minister Feng's heart skipped a beat, and he subconsciously looked at the emperor behind the case. I don't mean that. The marriage was granted by the imperial decree. If he dared to express his grievance, wouldn't he be dissatisfied with the emperor? The secretary of the household department said, the princess and the consort have always had a good relationship before, why suddenly? There is no need for you to interfere with my affairs. Chu Qinghuang interrupted him coldly, not giving any face to anyone, let alone a mere 50 boss. If he dares to displease me again, I will chop him up and feed him to the dogs. As soon as the cold and bloodthirsty voice came out, it was like a drop of water turning into ice in the freezing cold. Everyone present shuddered and fell silent for a moment. I am the princess protector, and she represents the dignity of the royal family. Feng Jinzi has been disrespectful to me since she entered the princess's mansion. Chu Qinghuang looked at everyone coldly. What is the crime of offending the royal family? What should I do if I insult the princess? Even if he is the legitimate son of the Feng family, I will not let him dominate me. Prime Minister Feng's expression suddenly changed. Jinji will never dare to. Not only does he dare, but he has been doing this all the time. Chu Qinghuang's voice was as cold as ice. Does Feng Xiang need to find someone to confront him? Prime Minister Feng's face turned red and he couldn't say a word. Seventh sister Chu Yuling came over and persuaded in a gentle voice, seventh sister should restrain herself a little in front of the Queen Mother and Emperor Father. Don't be so impulsive. Although the prince-in-law has some shortcomings, but there is no need to persuade me. Chu Qinghuang narrowed her eyes and flicked her robe sleeve slowly. Feng Jinzi has been in my house for one day, and he is my consort. I can do whatever I want to do with him. Others no right to comment. Chu Yuling looked at her in disbelief. Seventh sister. Qing Huang, His Majesty the Emperor finally spoke, with a hint of disapproval in his voice. Feng Jinzi is your consort after all. He is being married by a matchmaker and has paid homage to heaven and earth. Don't embarrass him too much. Chu Qing Huang was non-committal and asked calmly, is father worried about paying tribute to Dongling this year? Yes, the emperor nodded, with worries piling up on his brows, and had no time to pay attention to Feng Jinzi's affairs. The national treasury is not sufficient. In the past 2 years, tribute has been paid every year. The national treasury has long been overwhelmed, but Chu and Daz who have not been able to do so for a year. Fall, I don't want to show weakness to Dongling, but I have no power to compete. I've really had trouble sleeping and eating these past 2 days. Chu Qing Huang said indifferently, I have a way. The emperor was shocked and looked up at her suddenly. Do you have a way? The queen mother, the imperial concubine and a group of ministers looked at her at the same time, with suspicion and inexplicable uneasiness in their eyes. There are many corrupt officials in Ziki. It is enough to fill the treasury by confiscating 2 houses at random, Chu Qing Huang said in a calm tone. The reason why Dongling is so powerful is that corrupt officials have been killed long ago. Without corrupt officials, the treasury naturally has sufficient silver to manage the army and raise soldiers. Ziki can also follow suit. After a pause, you can send someone to investigate it recently, and take the opportunity to punish corrupt officials. The faces of several officials present changed at the same time, and the momentum of asking for punishment just now was no longer seen. The Prime Minister is the head of all officials, so let's start with the Prime Minister's family. Chu Qing Huang's eyes turned slightly. The Prime Minister has always been loyal to the Emperor, and he should not oppose my suggestion. After the words fell, the expression on Prime Minister Feng's face froze instantly. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 14. The atmosphere in the hall was stagnant, and everyone looked a little unhappy. I don't know how long it took before someone finally spoke to break the silence. Qing Huang, I'm afraid the suggestion you made is not easy to implement. Feng Gaifei raised a smile on her face. Although it didn't look natural, she said with a smile, there are so many officials in the DPRK and central government, and those with rich family backgrounds, most of them are senior ministers in the DPRK. Who dares to take the risk of offending so many ministers at once? The implication is clearly to remind the emperor that if he really dares to listen to Chu Qinghuang's ridiculous suggestion, he will undoubtedly be going against many families in Ziki and will offend everyone. I am afraid that the emperor will not be able to sit firmly on the throne. What the imperial concubine said makes sense. The prime minister nodded slowly. Although the veteran thinks he behaves well and has a clean mind, as we all know, it is the veteran with great power who can accumulate a rich family fortune. It is a good thing for the princess to investigate corrupt officials, but I'm afraid it won't be easy to implement this at once. Ding Yushi agreed. Yes, which minister in the court is willing to take on this offending job? The emperor frowned. Although he didn't like hearing such excuses, he had to deny that what Prime Minister Feng and Ding Yushi said made sense. Those who commit major corruption in the court are all veterans at the center of power, and their families are powerful. Who dares to take the risk of offending everyone and take this job? As the heirs of the royal family, the royal brothers should share the worries of the king. Chu Qinghuang turned his eyes slightly and looked at the princes who were standing silently aside. Since the ministers dare not accept it, why don't the father directly appoint a prince? The prince is on an errand. As soon as these words came out, the expressions of several princes changed. Seventh sister, how do you say this? The second prince Chu Tianqiu smiled. Don't say that this proposal is unreasonable at all. Even if it is really reasonable, I don't have the ability. With that said, he bowed to His Majesty the Emperor, reporting to my father, my abilities are limited, and I am afraid of living up to my father's expectations. The emperor looked at him coldly for a moment, then said calmly, "Where are you? Who is willing to share your worries?" Several princes looked at each other, no one dared to speak. Joke. Since it has been said that those who can accumulate a rich family fortune are all important officials in the court and the noble families of Ziki, who among them dares to offend? Don't forget that you are counting on the support of these ministers when it comes to competing for the throne. Whoever takes over the job at this time will be directly expelled from the ranks of candidates for the throne. They dare to be heroes only when their brains are broken. Prime Minister Feng and Shang Shuhubu stood aside leisurely. If it weren't for the emperor's presence, they would have almost sneered. The seventh princess is indeed an idiot with well-developed limbs and a simple mind. So what if she has strong martial arts skills? If it weren't for the emperor's favor, a fool like her would have been killed countless times. He obviously has no brains, but he still likes to show off. Since there is no one to take the job, how about you leave the errand to me? Chu Qinghuang said in a cold voice. Father gave me 3,000 guards. 1 month is enough. I will make sure that the national treasury is full and corrupt officials will not be able to hide. After the words fell, the hall suddenly became quiet. Several ministers present stared at her as if they were looking at a madman. The emperor raised his head and looked at her in surprise. Xiaoqi. Father, do you think it's impossible? Chu Qinghuang said indifferently. The national treasury is currently tight and we are in urgent need of silver. If we increase the taxes on the people, it will only accelerate the turmoil of the Western Qi community and be detrimental to people's livelihood. Only by forcing corrupt officials to come up with money can we effectively alleviate current difficulties. What the seventh princess said, could it be that all the money in the treasury has been greedy by the officials? Ding Yushi was dissatisfied. The ministers are loyal to the country, but they are completely rejected by the seventh princess with just one sentence. It is really chilling. Why is Ding Yushi so excited? Chu Qinghuang looked at him coldly. Whether you are greedy or not, you will know if you just ransack your home. You. That's enough. The emperor rubbed his eyebrows impatiently and turned to look at concubine Duan, who was sitting on the chair without saying a word. Concubine Duan, what do you think? The expressions of the queen mother and the queen instantly became stiff. The emperor ignored them and asked about concubine Duan. What's the meaning? Since Qinghuang intends to do things for the emperor, I will naturally support it. Concubine Duan stood up and spoke calmly. It is an honor for me and Qinghuang to share the emperor's worries. Chu Qinghuang turned his eyes slightly and glanced at the original owner, the mother-in-law, calmly. A beauty indeed. Almost all of Chu Qinghuang's beauty was inherited from this mother-in-law, but a daughter who is born to be rebellious will do as much as she likes. It is best to completely mess up the court and kill everyone so that Tianzheng can sit on the throne of the crown prince. As for this rebellious daughter, before Tianzheng took the throne, no matter how much trouble she made, the bigger the better, it didn't matter if she offended everyone. She had been like this since she was a child anyway, and the crazier she became, the more normal she would be. Zheng sat on the throne and found a way to deal with it so as not to be embarrassed. Chu Qinghuang frowned slightly and listened quietly to concubine Duan's thoughts. Only then did she realize that Chu Qinghuang was actually a woman that even her own mother hated. Life seems to be quite a failure. Surrounded by false villains full of scheming, the only loyal shadow guard was tortured to death by her own hands. This can be regarded as her own fault. Your Majesty, the AI family does not agree. The Queen Mother frowned and said, Xiao Kekong has martial arts, but has never been involved in handling cases. She thinks of things too simply. She is afraid that it will be a mess and the court will. The people in the hall were panicked, which made the emperor anxious. Feng Gaifei nodded quickly. I also think Qinghuang is too presumptuous and has not considered the consequences at all. I can consider all the consequences one by one, as long as the Queen Mother and the ministers can think of a way to solve the empty treasury. Chu Qing Huang spoke slowly, her voice cold and calm. If you can't think of a solution but want to obstruct my case, can it be considered that you are guilty? How dare you? The Queen Mother's face suddenly changed, and she shouted angrily, Chu Qing Huang, is this how you talk to me? Chu Qing Huang ignored her and only looked at the emperor. I can make the treasury abundant within a month, and find a way to make Ziki no longer need to pay tribute to Dongling this year. What? As soon as she said this, not only did the ministers all look at her as if they had seen a ghost, but even the emperor thought he had heard it wrong. Xiaoqi. Seventh princess, are you joking? Prime Minister Feng looked at her incredulously, as if he had finally confirmed that she had gone mad. Western Qi has been paying tribute to Dongling for several years, and can barely maintain the stability of the country. Dongling is a powerful country with strong military forces, and now it is the country with the largest territory in the world. Their cavalry has been eyeing it covetously, waiting to find an excuse to raise troops to annex Western Qi at any time. But the seventh princess, are you talking nonsense at this critical moment? Do you want Ziki to fall into war immediately? The Queen Mother frowned. You are just talking nonsense, you don't know what you mean. The Queen also frowned. Xiaoqi is too presumptuous. If you are not careful about family and country affairs, war will be triggered and people will suffer. Is it as simple as you say? The third prince was helpless. Although the seventh sister is good at martial arts, she is a girl after all. How can she understand war? It's better to go back and live a good life with your husband, and don't cause trouble for your father here. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 15. Chu Qing Huang looked indifferent, not caring about the people's words as if they were besieging him. His eyes only fell on the emperor behind the case. It didn't matter what others said, the decision rested with the emperor, and Chu Qing Huang had a way to make the emperor believe it. Historically, the harem was not allowed to interfere in politics, and even the Queen Mother had no right to dictate state affairs. But today, because of Feng Jin's incident, the harem queen, concubines, princes, and former ministers all gathered here. It was a rare and grand scene. Xiaoqi, what can you do? The emperor looked at her, probably with a glimmer of hope. Tell me about it. Chu Qing Huang said, I only tell my father. Concubine Feng gave a stiff smile. Xiaoqi. Let's all go back. The emperor frowned. The crowd made him upset. The queen and the noble concubine will send my mother back for me. Concubine Duan should go back and rest early. Everyone else should also kneel down. There was silence in the hall. Everyone had different expressions, and they kept scolding Chu Qing Huang for his stupidity in their hearts. Their voices were jumbled, and Chu Qing Huang was too lazy to waste energy to listen. Although she still doesn't know whether this mind-reading skill belongs to the original owner or is caused by other reasons, excessive consumption of any power will damage the body. Listening when necessary can help distinguish between friend and foe, but she is too lazy when not necessary. Make trouble for yourself. The ministers resigned and left dissatisfied. The Queen Mother and the imperial concubine wanted to say something else, especially about Feng Jin, but seeing Chu Qing Huang's indifferent attitude like an iceberg, the Queen Mother's eyes couldn't help but darken, and she couldn't bring herself to talk to her. After speaking, he left surrounded by the queen and concubines. Xiaoqi concubine Duan walked up to Chu Qing Huang and smiled softly, talk to your father. Chu Qing Huang was silent. Let's find a chance to apologize to the Queen Mother later. Concubine Duan frowned. The Queen Mother is your grandmother after all, how can you be so disrespectful? Chu Qing Huang looked indifferent and still didn't say a word. The original owner was such a person. She ignored everyone and couldn't put anyone down in her eyes. Whether it was the Queen Mother or the Emperor, she would give her some face most of the time by giving her good words, but if she tried to force herself on her, then in one sentence, she is a master who is not afraid of death. This was known to everyone as early as when I was learning martial arts. She has shown a violent and unruly temper since she was a child, and everyone has become accustomed to it. The emperor did not kill her a few years ago, which proved that he can tolerate her temperament. Especially now that she has hoped to reverse the situation in Ziki, the emperor is even less interested. It would be easy to kill her. Concubine Duan said a few words in a soft voice and quickly turned and left. It seemed that she was not angry at King Huang's indifference. After everyone left, the emperor finally spoke. Xiao Qi, 11 Qi pays tribute to Dongling every year. This is not out of my original intention, but forced by the situation. Not only Ziki, but also Zhou and Shu also pay tribute year after year. Northern Xinjiang is far away from Dongling, and every autumn or His Majesty the Emperor's birthday, people will be sent to send some gifts. For the time being, no country has the confidence to compete with Dongling. Chu Qinghuang said, I didn't say I wanted to compete with Dongling. The emperor frowned and said, then what do you mean? I have a way to save Dongling from having to pay tribute to Ziki, Chu Qinghuang said calmly, and Dongling took the initiative. The emperor was shocked and then shook his head. This is simply impossible. Nothing is impossible, Chu Qinghuang said indifferently. I said if there is a way, there will be a way. As long as you agree to my conditions, within 3 months I will definitely ask the Dongling envoy to come to Ziki in person. The emperor will know whether what I say is reliable. Within 3 months. The emperor pondered. Ziki has been paying tribute in the autumn in the past few years, and now it is March. No matter whether the 3-month deadline mentioned by Chu Qinghuang can be met, there will be no worse results. Even if it cannot be done, it will not be too late to think of a solution by then. But what if she could really do it? Ziki could then take a breath. The emperor thought like this and suddenly frowned. Did you just say the conditions? Chu Qinghuang said calmly, yes. With this tone, she didn't seem to think there was anything wrong with the princess negotiating with the emperor. It didn't sound like she was facing her father at all, but more like a business negotiation, even though this man was not her father in the first place. Calling him father was based on the identity of the original owner, which gave him great face. The emperor was silent for a moment. What conditions? First, father, give me the secret pavilion, and within a month I will solve the problem of the empty treasury for you, Chu Qinghuang said. Second, make me the eldest princess, and I guarantee that Dongling and Ziki will be well together in the future. If the water does not invade the river, there is no need to pay tribute. Dongling will never raise troops against 11 Qi within 10 years. After a pause, 10 years should be enough for Ziki to recruit troops, raise horses, and expand the size of the army. The emperor's eyes were heavy and he stared at her expressionlessly for a long time. He found that this daughter seemed a little different from before, but there was no obvious change in her temper and temperament. She was still so arrogant and had no distinction between superiority and inferiority, so it was hard to say what was different. Have you become much calmer and smarter than before? A little stronger in momentum? Also, in the past, the person who liked Feng Jinzi the most would even give some face to Feng Jinzi's family, and would be a little scrupulous in front of the Queen Mother and Feng Gaifei, but today there is no such thing. There was a strange feeling fermenting in his heart, but the emperor couldn't think of a reason. He just said lightly, I can agree to your conditions, but if you get the Dark Pavilion and canonize the Princess Protector, but you don't do what you want, what about the promised things? Chu Qinghuang did not hesitate for a moment and said calmly, I will commit suicide to apologize. The emperor was surprised, then smiled, okay, I believe you once. Anyway, there is no loss, right? Although usually only the emperor's legitimate daughters or sisters can be canonized as princesses, other daughters can only be called princesses according to their ranking if they have no merits, such as the eldest princess, the second princess, or the princess can be canonized as a princess after reaching adulthood, and the weight of the eldest princess is equivalent to that of a prince, one level higher than the concubines in the harem. Before the crown prince is canonized, she, the seventh princess, will even be 3 points more honorable than the above several legitimate royal brothers. However, His Majesty the Emperor can make an exception for Chu Qinghuang. The greater the grace you receive, the greater the merits you must make, this is the corresponding responsibility, or the price you need to pay. There is no such thing as getting something for nothing in the world, even if she is a princess. Glorious wealth, status, and power, any request can be met, provided that you must do what you promised. Although it is against the rules, I can make an exception for your promise. Then please announce the decree immediately and announce it to the world. Qinghuang said in a faint voice, after the imperial decree is issued, I will have a legitimate identity and greater power to raid the homes of corrupt officials. The emperor looked at her with a complicated expression. Raid the homes of corrupt officials? Why did she sound so relaxed and calm, as if raiding the homes was just a child's game? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 16. The emperor was thinking about something, and naturally he was a little puzzled by Chu Qinghuang's obvious change, but this was not the most important thing at the moment. Since the father and daughter had talked to this point, His Majesty the Emperor did not mind talking to her about something else. How did Feng Jinzi offend you? Chu Qinghuang frowned slightly, as if disgusted. He committed a crime against his superiors. After entering the mansion, he repeatedly scolded me for being shameless and not acting like a son-in-law. I couldn't stand it anymore, so I punished him today. The emperor understood. This daughter liked Feng Jinzi very much. For him, she ignored several beautiful maids in the mansion. If she hadn't endured it to a certain extent, she probably wouldn't say such a thing. Although Qinghuang had a violent temper, she was a straightforward person and would not lie about such things. In this way, Feng Jinzi was indeed outrageous. The emperor said calmly, Feng Jinzi is already your man. If he is really so unruly, he should be taught a lesson. Chu Qinghuang didn't say anything, but she was thinking in her heart that if Feng Jinzi didn't accept the divorce letter and leave the princess's mansion, his life would not be easy. These are the results of his own actions, and he should bear them himself. There is another thing. I want to ask for your opinion. The emperor picked up the teacup and spoke casually. Who do you think is the most suitable to be the crown prince among the royal brothers? The eldest son Tianling is the legitimate son of the former queen, and he has the title of the eldest son, but the child without a mother is ultimately weak. The second son Tianqiu is the son of the current queen and also has the advantage of being a legitimate son. The third prince Chu Tianyan is the son of concubine Feng, and he has the support of Feng Xiang and his party behind him. The fifth prince Tianzheng is the son of concubine Duan. Concubine Duan and the Ling family are the most popular, and they hold military power in their hands, so their chances of winning seem to be the greatest. The four princes can be called four legs, and they are all qualified to be crown princes. The emperor had not appointed a crown prince for a long time, and the court officials were all wondering who was the most qualified candidate for the crown prince in the emperor's mind. The concubines in the harem were also secretly trying to make efforts. Crown prince. Chu Qinghuang was silent for a moment, and said in a flat tone, no one is suitable. Huh? The emperor looked at her in surprise. Chu Qinghuang said in a cold voice, they are all cowards. When they encounter something, they hide in their shells. They have no responsibility at all. What kind of crown prince are they? If they take the throne, Ziki will be defeated by them sooner or later. His Majesty heard this, and his expression sank. Thinking of the reactions of his sons just now, he thought coldly that they really had no responsibility. For the position of crown prince, he dared not offend the court officials. The attitude of each of them wanting to show loyalty to the whole court was simply embarrassing. "If your father has nothing else to do, I will go back first," Chu Qing Huang said. "In the next few days, no matter what happens in the princess's mansion, no matter what I do outside, I hope your father will turn a blind eye. If the court is in chaos, I will clean it up. As long as I can finally fulfill my promise, I hope your father will not care too much about other trivial issues." The emperor didn't know what to say. This daughter simply took me as I pleased to the extreme. Let him turn a blind eye? Which daughter in history dared to talk to her father like this? What's more, he is the king of a country. Even the most favored concubine Duan would never dare to speak to the king of a country in such a tone. But His Majesty the Emperor had long been accustomed to Chu Qinghuang's rudeness. Hearing this, he only said, "As long as you can do what you say, I will agree to any conditions." Compared with the stability of the country and the abundance of the treasury, a daughter's temper is nothing to be intolerable. Chu Qinghuang quickly turned around and walked out of the Yugan palace. The emperor sat alone on the dragon throne, thinking about Chu Qinghuang's words. None of the four princes were suitable, but the country needed someone to inherit it. If the four emperors who had not yet reached adulthood were not suitable, could the youngest ninth prince be made the crown prince? After leaving the Vermilion Palace gate, Chu Qinghuang turned her head and looked up at the tall palace plaque, with a hint of aloofness in her eyes. Although the country of Ziki was not worth much, it was still okay to grab it and play with it. She didn't like to be inferior to others. She was the master of the country, and there were all the beautiful men in the world for her to choose from. She had as many as she wanted, and there was no need to die for one person. Who was Feng Jinzi? Love was the most troublesome vulgar thing in the world, and it should not be easily touched, because it could make a man of iron lose his fighting spirit and willingly become soft around his fingers. It could make people happy and satisfied, but it could also make people become neither human nor ghost. She doesn't want to spend time with anyone under the moonlight, nor is she interested in indulging in tenderness and love. She just wants to gallop across the country, command the heroes, and be the master of the world with thousands of people crawling on her back. Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbspeed -01, container, tabula below article thumbnail -300x250, placement, below article thumbnail -300x250, target. Type, mix. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 17. Leaving Yugan Palace, Chu Qinghuang was stopped by a maid on the way to the palace gate. Chu Qinghuang stopped and recognized the other person as Aunt Zhao from concubine Duan's palace. "Your Highness," Aunt Zhao saluted respectfully. "Concubine Duan asked you to go to Ganquan Palace." Chu Qinghuang was silent for a moment, nodded slowly, turned around, and followed Aunt Zhao to Ganquan Palace. More than 30 years ago, when the emperor ascended the throne, he was still a child. The regent Lin Ao controlled the government and the military power. The Lin family was ambitious and wanted to replace the emperor. In the power struggle that lasted for several years, the emperor finally won and successfully took power, and the Lin family was all killed. Concubine Duan and the Ling family played a decisive role in the war for the young master to take power. At the critical moment, they shot Lin Ao to death with one arrow, and they were meritorious in protecting the emperor and turning the tide. The Ling family has been honored to this day. However, the Ling family is not without selfishness. In the past, the Ling family and Lin Ao were mortal enemies. After the death of Regent King Lin Ao, most of the military power fell into the hands of Ling Anken, the elder brother of concubine Duan. In recent years, the Ling family has suppressed several civil strife, which can be regarded as some achievements. In addition, the emperor's favor, the family is naturally prominent, almost comparable to the queen and the uncle's mansion. Concubine Duan has a son and a daughter, the fifth prince Chu Tianzheng, and the seventh princess Chu Qinghuang. Concubine Duan can't say that she dotes on her daughter Chu Qinghuang, nor does she hate her. In short, it is a kind of faint mother-daughter relationship. In the past, because Chu Qinghuang liked Feng Jinzi, Chu Qinghuang actually got closer to concubine Feng, and became more distant from her mother. In addition, Chu Qinghuang's behavior was violent and eccentric, and she was impeached by court officials every now and then. The rumors about her in the imperial capital never stopped. Concubine Duan really couldn't like this daughter, but for the sake of her son, she didn't want to be hostile to Chu Qinghuang. If the mother and daughter turned against each other, it would only make those with ulterior motives happy. Originally, she didn't want to pay attention to this daughter. Most of the time, she only maintained the image of a gentle mother in front of the emperor, but today Chu Qinghuang's performance in Yugan Palace surprised concubine Duan and saw a little hope. If this daughter can really make some merits, even if this merit is based on offending ministers, it will be beneficial to compete with Tianzheng for the throne. The daughter earns merits and suppresses political enemies. The more unscrupulous she acts, the better. Eliminate all opponents who should be eliminated, so that other princes will be seriously injured. Then let Tianzheng come forward at an appropriate time to appease those court officials offended by Chu Qinghuang, and there will be no worries about not winning people's hearts. Concubine Duan told her son about this plan and made a wishful calculation in her mind. Chu Qinghuang followed Madame Zhao into Ganquan Palace and heard some of it intentionally or unintentionally, but her face was calm. Qinghuang concubine Duan ordered someone to serve tea and smiled gently. It's been a long time since we, mother and daughter, sat down and talked about our inner thoughts. Today I ordered someone to make some snacks. Come and try them. Fake. Fake. She lied to you. She lied to you. A tender and crisp child's voice suddenly sounded in her ears. The little baby voice sounded particularly soft and cute. Chu Qinghuang's eyebrows moved, and she looked around the palace calmly. She didn't find anything unusual, and concubine Duan looked gentle as usual, as if she didn't hear this childish baby voice. Chu Qinghuang frowned and sat down calmly. Qinghuang concubine Duan smiled, "What's going on between you and Feng Jinzi?" A baby voice sounded, "The scumbag should die. The scumbag should die." Chu Qinghuang pondered the meaning of scumbag in her heart, but her expression was calm and without any waves. "I don't want to mention him anymore." Concubine Duan's expression froze, and then she smiled faintly, "I know you don't want to mention it, but Feng Jinzi is your husband after all. I want to know what's going on between you." Chu Qinghuang frowned, "He was disrespectful and offended me." Concubine Duan asked, "Then are you tired of him?" "I guess so. I guess so." Concubine Duan frowned slightly. She really didn't like to hear such an ambiguous answer, always felt that there would be variables in the future. What if the two of them turned against each other at this moment, and Feng Jinzi won back his mind with a few words in the future? She would be in a passive position. Qinghuang concubine Duan looked at her seriously. "There is no true love in the royal family. You and Tianzheng are brothers and sisters from the same mother. We are the real relatives." Chu Qinghuang was silent for a moment, and his eyes fell on her face. Concubine Duan had no sincerity towards the original owner's biological daughter, let alone any mother-daughter relationship with her, an outsider. It was hypocritical to say that they were born of the same mother. However, who said that the royal family had no true feelings? Qinghuang thought of her biological mother, who was truly a woman of gentleness, tolerance, beauty, and wisdom. Even a man as strong and proud as her father was willing to be defeated by her mother for the rest of his life. Qinghuang concubine Duan frowned slightly, suppressing her displeasure. "What are you thinking about?" Chu Qinghuang came back to her senses and said calmly, "What do you want me to do?" Concubine Duan said, "The Minister of Revenue was rude to you today. You should be able to find a reason to get rid of him." Chu Qinghuang was silent. thinking about what happened in the imperial study today, and searched for a long time from those faces before remembering which one was the Minister of Revenue, and hummed calmly, "What after getting rid of him? Your second uncle has been in the position of assistant minister for a long time." Concubine Duan smiled, "Do you think it's time to promote him?" Chu Qing Huang raised her eyes and looked at her, "I can't make the decision on this matter. You can mention it in front of your father, but don't be too deliberate." Concubine Duan said calmly, "Wait until you have made merit this time, strike while the iron is hot, your father will agree." Chu Qing Huang was silent for a moment, not knowing what she was thinking. Concubine Duan was dignified and gentle in front of outsiders, but her patience was obviously not very good. "Qing Huang, did you hear what I said?" Chu Qing Huang responded vaguely, looking like she was thinking about Concubine Duan's words, but only she knew that she was thinking about the tender baby voice just now. Concubine Duan's palace should not have children of a few years old. Where did the baby voice just now come from? Did Concubine Duan not hear it? Chu Qing Huang was thoughtful, and she didn't feel like staying here to waste time with Concubine Duan. She quickly got up and said goodbye, without eating snacks or drinking tea, and she was even too lazy to deal with the mother-daughter relationship between mother and daughter, which was only blood-related but without any family affection. "I'll go back first," Chu Qing Huang said. "I will seriously consider your words, and come to see you when I have time in the future." Concubine Duan's face turned green, and she couldn't help but grit her teeth. "Qing Huang. Does she have her mother in her eyes?" After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 18. After walking out of the palace and getting on his carriage, Chu Qing Huang said, "Fukang." A vigorous figure flashed into the carriage and knelt in the carriage covered with soft blankets. Even in broad daylight, it was so fast that it was almost dazzling. "You were in Duanfei Palace just now, did you hear any strange noises? Strange sounds?" Fukang thought for a while, lowered his head and said, "I didn't hear it." Chu Qing Huang's eyes fell on the top of his head. "Seriously? My subordinates dare not lie." Chu Qing Huang hummed indifferently and didn't ask any more questions, but she couldn't help but wonder where that little milky voice came from. It shouldn't be that Concubine Duan is pretending to be a ghost, otherwise Fukang wouldn't be able to hear it, so what's the reason? Where did that voice come from? Is there really a child, or is there some evil spirit at work? Chu Qing Huang was suspicious and leaned on the carriage in silence until the carriage arrived at the gate of the princess's mansion. After getting off the carriage, Chu Qing Huang walked into the gate. When he looked up, he saw 2 rows of servants standing in the courtyard, and the leader was surprisingly the consort Feng Jinzi, whose face was as pale as paper. Chu Qing Huang paused for a moment, then raised his eyes casually, with a sarcastic curve on his lips. Chu Qing Huang Feng Jinzi was supported by someone, otherwise it would be impossible for him to stand in his current physical condition. "I want to know dash. It seems that you haven't learned the lesson yet," Chu Qing Huang said with a cold tone. "Do you need someone from this palace to teach you the rules of respect and inferiority?" Feng Jinzi's face turned green, and he looked at Chu Qing Huang with sinister and angry eyes. "What exactly do you want to do?" "Scumbag." 2 words floated in the air, and the cute voice conveyed a domineering tone that people couldn't ignore. Chu Qing Huang looked up and saw that the weather was clear, the sky was blue and cloudless, and it was so quiet that even the wind was almost still. Frowning slightly, her eyes fell on Feng Jinzi's face. He didn't seem to hear the voice. At this time, he was staring at Chu Qing Huang coldly with an obvious questioning look in his eyes, as if he was the owner of this mansion. "Since you still have energy, just kneel here for an hour." Chu Qing Huang was a little impatient. After speaking, he turned around and ordered, "Where is the guard commander?" Feng Jinzi's expression changed. "My subordinate is here. The prince-in-law has been a bit unruly these past 2 days. I'm going to punish him by kneeling here for an hour." You can keep an eye on me here and don't let the prince-in-law faint. Yes. Feng Jinzi couldn't believe what he heard. He looked at Chu Qing Huang angrily. Have you lost your mind and gone crazy? Let me tell you, no matter what tricks you use, I will never Bang. The young man in black rushed towards him like a gust of wind, raised his foot and kicked the opponent's back knee hard. Feng Jinzi fell to his knees on the ground without warning, and his bluffing and shouting voice was stuck in his throat. The sound of his knees hitting the ground was scary. Feng Jinzi's face turned pale, cold sweat broke out, and his face was twisted in pain. Chu Qing Huang turned around and saw that the person who took action was Fukang. Meeting her eyes, Fukang lowered his head and said, if he commits the following crime, he deserves death. Chu Qing Huang raised the corners of her lips slightly and was about to leave when the sound of horse hooves suddenly sounded outside, and then the eunuch's soft and high-pitched voice sounded, the imperial edict has arrived. Chu Qing Huang turned around, and everyone inside and outside the princess's mansion knelt on the ground. The eunuch who conveyed the order hurriedly dismounted, followed by two young eunuchs, one holding a treasure book and the other holding a gold seal. The emperor has decreed that the seventh princess Chu Qing Huang be canonized as the eldest princess. I appreciate this. As soon as the words fell, the eunuch who delivered the order did not even dare to let Chu Qing Huang kneel down to receive the order. He respectfully delivered the imperial edict to Chu Qing Huang. Congratulations to your highness, the eldest princess. I will pay my respects to your highness first. Chu Qing Huang nodded, silently accepted the imperial edict, and motioned to Fukang to take the gold seal and treasure book from the hands of the two young eunuchs. Slave, please retire. The housekeeper in the mansion quickly stood up and walked over. Father-in-law, wait a moment. The eunuch who conveyed the order turned around. The housekeeper took out a bag of silver from his body and put it into the hand of the eunuch who passed the order. This is your royal highness the princess's wish. You and the two young father-in-laws can buy some wine to drink. Chu Qing Huang was non-committal about this. The eunuch who delivered the order quickly declined. No, no need. Take it. Chu Qing Huang's tone was indifferent, and after speaking, he turned and walked towards the house. Except for Feng Jinzi, everyone else can get up. The housekeeper goes to the accounting room to collect the money. Everyone sent the eldest princess off respectfully. Fukang followed Chu Qing Huang silently, closing his eyes without saying a word. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 19. Back to Dongshang Pavilion, entered the bedroom. Jinlan came forward to help change clothes and wash. Chu Qing Huang ordered people to take down the imperial edict, the golden seal, and the treasure book, and kept them. She was still thinking about the immature but weird little baby voice, and her brows could not help but frown. When the baby voice appeared in Duanfei's palace, Duanfei didn't notice it at all. When it appeared in front of the gate of the mansion just now, Fukang, Feng Jinzi, and even the guards, housekeepers, and maids present didn't have any strange reactions. So she was the only one who could hear it? Chu Qing Huang raised his hand and rubbed his eyebrows, thinking that this matter was really strange. And when does she usually appear? What is the pattern when she appears? What does this demon spirit have to do with me? But for the time being, it can be confirmed that she has no ill will towards me, and she is even a little cute, like an innocent child. Your Highness, Fukang said calmly, I have already picked a few shadow guards. Would you like to see them? Chu Qing Huang said calmly, where are they? Fukang turned his head and said, come in. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. 4 figures flashed in like ghosts. They were all young and agile teenagers of 17 or 18 years old. They were all dressed in black and had thin and slender figures. After entering the hall, They knelt down in unison, as silent as shadows in the dark night. Your subordinate is Fu Feng. Your subordinate is Fuan. Your subordinate is Fu Wei. Your subordinate is Fu Ying. Greetings, Master. Chu Qing Huang stared at the 4 young shadow guards in front of him in silence, and said in a calm tone, "Raise your heads." The 4 of them raised their heads in unison, their eyes lowered, not daring to look around. Chu Qing Huang looked at them expressionlessly for a moment, and said calmly, "I will give you 3 days to act separately and find evidence of the Minister of Revenue's corruption, collusion, and forming a clique for personal gain. I will bring the evidence to confiscate his house." Yes. The 4 received the first order and left quietly like a shadow. Feng Jinzi fainted after kneeling for less than an hour. When the news was reported to Chu Qing Huang, she sneered coldly, "Send someone to tell him to take good care of his injuries in the next 2 days, don't come out to make trouble again, and get out of here with a divorce letter as soon as he recovers." Yes. Chu Qing Huang turned around and sat down on the Yunjin soft couch, slightly closed her eyes, and began to think about the current situation in Ziki. A pair of hands rested on her temples and pressed them with just the right amount of force. Chu Qing Huang didn't open her eyes, and her voice was indifferent, "You are the best master in the Dark Pavilion." This is a statement, not an inquiry. Fu Kang's massage movements froze, and he subconsciously wanted to kneel down, but he heard Chu Qing Huang say, "Stand up and answer." Yes. Fu Kang lowered his eyes. The 4 words "number 1 master" made him suffer too much in the past 2 years. It was because the 7th princess could not defeat him, and he was too arrogant to bow his head and show weakness, that he ended up being tortured again and again. So when Chu Qing Huang mentioned the number 1 master, Fu Kang couldn't help but think of the painful experience of those 2 years. In fact, just before yesterday, he was still living in dire straits, with new scars on his body almost every day, and not a single day was comfortable. However, since yesterday, Her Royal Highness the Princess has become different from before, as if she has completely changed. Since those 4 people just now are all of the Fu generation, their skills should not be weak, second only to you. Fu Kang pursed his lips, "Yes. I want you to take charge of the Dark Pavilion, can you do it?" Fu Kang was silent for a moment, and slowly nodded, "Yes." When this word fell, the palace was quiet for a long time. Chu Qing Huang didn't say anything else, as if she was asleep. Fu Kang stood behind her, quietly and attentively massaging her temples and eyebrows. His eyes were filled with deep emotions, so deep that no one could detect the waves. At a glance, it was like a calm lake, without even ripples. Half a day passed quietly, the air was fresh, and the sun was quiet. The violent 7th princess probably never had such a quiet and peaceful moment. Chu Qing Huang rested for half a day, and it was already evening when she woke up. Jinlan came to ask for dinner and reported what happened in the afternoon. The 6th princess and Feng Wanyu, the daughter of the Feng family, entered the mansion half an hour ago, saying that they were visiting the injury of the prince consort. They are now in Wutong Garden. Chu Qing Huang responded casually, very indifferent. In the original owner's memory, Feng Wanyu was like her brother Feng Jinzi, both of whom were people without self-awareness. However, Feng Wanyu was not Feng Jinzi after all. She did not have the courage of Feng Jinzi, and she dared not be presumptuous in front of Chu Qing Huang, fearing that the cold and violent Chu Qing Huang would whip her face. Chu Yuling called her over. Was she trying to give herself courage, or did she really think Feng Wanyu could play a role? Chu Qing Huang frowned and remained silent for a moment, then said indifferently, "Tell Lu Jun later that Feng Jinzi's privileges in the princess's mansion have been cancelled. Anyone who comes to the princess's mansion must report to me. My mansion is not their backyard. They can come and go as they please. Lu Jun is the leader of the guards in the princess's mansion." Jinlan said in a stern voice, "Yes." Dinner was still for Chu Qing Huang and Fu Kang. After dinner, Minjiu brought the boiled medicine, and Fu Kang drank it without saying a word, and then began to serve Chu Qing Huang to wash and change clothes. The original personal maids Minjiao and Jinlan did not remind them of this. The issue of not being able to touch each other between men and women does not seem to apply to Chu Qing Huang. She has no awareness of this at all. She will automatically stay away from people she dislikes, and will allow people she recognizes to approach her, regardless of their identity. Anyway, she does not care about other people's opinions. After washing up, Chu Qing Huang sat in front of the window wearing a cloud-colored coat, holding a cup of fragrant tea, quietly looking at the lights outside the window, with delicate and bright eyebrows and eyes showing a cool color. Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbspeed -01, container, tabula below article thumbnail -300x250, placement, below article thumbnail -300x250, target. Type, mix. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 20. Completely different from the tranquility of Dongshang Pavilion, Fen Wanyu stood in front of the bed in Wutong Garden at this time, looking at her pale brother lying on the bed in shock. How could this happen? Is Chu Qing Huang here? What? How could she be so cruel to my elder brother? Is she crazy or? Shut up! Feng Jinzi had just woken up from dizziness. Her head hurt from her noise. He gritted his teeth and shouted angrily, "Let me be quiet for a while." Feng Wanyu lowered her head and looked. "Brother, are you awake?" Feng Jinzi lay on the bed in a difficult position. Every part of his body ached. He broke out in cold sweat even if he moved a little. After he knelt down and fainted, the clothes he had just changed into were quickly soaked with sweat. He closed his eyes. Lying on the pillow, he waited for the sudden burst of pain to subside before slowly opening his eyes. "Wanyu is too anxious, don't blame her." Chu Yuling wiped the sweat from his forehead with a soft handkerchief, and said distressedly, "What happened today? I heard that you were punished by kneeling down." Time. Feng Jinzi was cursing Chu Qing Huang in his heart, using almost all the vicious and unpleasant words to scold her. How could he have time to blame Feng Wanyu? However, thinking of being punished by kneeling, Feng Jinzi's face turned green, and a trace of resentment flashed across his eyes. "That damn bitch Chu Qing Huang," he gritted his teeth, sounding like he wanted to bite off a piece of Chu Qing Huang's flesh. "I will make her pay the price." Chu Yuling pursed her red lips and said hesitantly, "Jinzi." Feng Jinzi heard her hesitant tone and slowly turned to look at her. "What's wrong?" "Chu Qing Huang is crazy. She actually wants to fill the empty treasury by ransacking homes." Chu Yuling bit her lip. "We haven't turned against her yet, so you can see if you can. Search your home." Feng Jinzi's expression froze. Whose house was raided? "The home of an important minister of the imperial court." Chu Yuling sat down on the edge of the bed and wiped his cold sweat like a good wife and mother. "She proposed in front of her father to confiscate the house to fill the treasury, but you should know that those 78th grade official doesn't have much property at all. If Chu Qing Huang wants to raid the house, he will definitely start with the important officials in the court. If we have a quarrel with her at this time, it will be to no avail." Feng Jinzi couldn't believe what she heard. Search the house? Why does she raid the minister's house? Just because she is a madman? Does the emperor let her do whatever she wants? He is not afraid of causing turmoil in the court and causing rebellion among the ministers. Jinzi. Chu Yuling quickly covered his mouth. "Walls have ears, so watch your words. Chu Qing Huang is a madman with no sense at all." He gritted his teeth and cursed angrily, wanting to beat the bed. "It's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. It just comes out as it comes, without any brain at all. Search your home. Are the homes of ministers so easy to steal? Without evidence, why should she lead people to raid her home?" Chu Yuling comforted her. "You know she is a madman and can do anything, so we should stabilize her now and not break up with her, otherwise she will definitely start with the Feng family first. She dares. She really dares. Feng Wanyu frowned. Brother, the emperor not only made Chu Qinghuang the eldest princess, but also gave him the right to mobilize 3,000 forbidden troops. She has no intention of reasoning with anyone, and she doesn't want to reason with anyone at all. Evidence, she plans to come hard directly. Canonize the eldest princess? Feng Jinzi's face turned pale. Thinking of today's canonization decree, she sincerely doubted whether the emperor was confused, and said coldly, "Is the emperor just letting her do whatever she wants? Even if you dote on your daughter, such crazy behavior is not allowed, otherwise, how will you be different from a foolish king? What's more, Chu Qinghuang has neither great meritorious service nor any great achievements. Why make an exception and canonize the eldest princess? Because the treasury has no money." Chu Yuling's face was gloomy. "What my father is worried about now is money," and Chu Qinghuang boasted in front of his father that she could solve the problem of paying tribute to Dongling. His father was so moved that she agreed to almost every request, which was completely irrational. Now the people in the court were in panic, and the officials all went to the father to remonstrate, hoping that he would take back his orders, but the father was determined. Ignore anyone's advice at all. Feng Jinzi was seriously injured and his face was already pale and ugly. At this moment, he was even more gloomy and cold. He wished he could tear Chu Qinghuang into pieces to relieve the anger in his heart. There was silence in the room for a moment. Jinzi Chu Yuling looked at his face. "Why don't you find a way to coax her first? Chu Qinghuang used to be very passionate about you and almost always responded to your request. If you are willing to give in to her, there is no way she will fall in love immediately. Have you changed your mind?" Feng Jinzi said angrily, "You want me to talk down to her? Isn't this for the sake of the Feng family?" Chu Yuling frowned. "If I say a few nice words to her, we can save the Feng family from trouble, and we won't suffer any loss. The grievances we suffered at her hands will be dealt with in the future. It won't be too late for the third emperor brother to get it back slowly after he ascends the throne." Feng Jinzi's face looked extremely ugly. However, he was indeed thinking about Chu Yuling's words. Chu Qinghuang, this lunatic, could really do anything. He didn't know if yesterday's beating and today's punishment of kneeling were Chu Qinghuang's deliberate attempt to force him to bow his head, but Feng Jinzi knew in her heart that Chu Qinghuang was an unscrupulous mad woman who could do anything. "You should keep an eye on the outside news these 2 days," Feng Jinzi said in a cold tone. "I will act by ear and figure out what Chu Qinghuang wants to do." Well, Chu Yuling raised her head and looked at the sky outside. "It's getting late. Wanyu and I will go back first. You take good care of yourself and don't confront Chu Qinghuang again." The young man who had been standing aside for a long time without speaking looked up at them and said quietly, "When the young master fell asleep in the afternoon, the princess sent someone a message, telling him to take good care of his injuries and stop going out to act like a monster. Wait. As soon as the injury heals, just take the divorce letter and get out." Before he finished speaking, Feng Jinzi's face was already covered with a layer of frost, and his voice seemed to be squeezed out from between his teeth. "Bitch. Don't worry, Jinzi. She said she would write a letter of divorce after recovering from her injuries, which proves that there is still room for change." Chu Yuling spoke slowly, with a cold look in her eyes. "Maybe this is how she forced you to give in to her. It's a means, but we can't take risks for the time being, and we have to follow her." Feng Jinzi said nothing. He suspected that Chu Qinghuang was possessed by evil spirits and suddenly fell out of love yesterday, which really confirmed the saying that turning against someone is ruthless.